right, so I'm going to talk to you about ending your development environment nightmares with NVINFO and Solidarity. So my name's Trevor Brindle, and basically everything you use when you're developing software is your environment. It's the sum of all the tools and processes that you use, your files, your tools, your processes, variables, everything. And especially with things like React Native, it's definitely growing in complexity. If you think back, 10 years, maybe you've been doing this long, we didn't have quite as many tools. Think about it. You have your shell, your operating system. You also have Objective-C and Swift and Java and Kotlin and all these different languages that go into your application. And so with this growing complexity, you get more bugs. And so the problem, by a quick show of hands, how many of you actually know exactly what is on your computer? Don't put your hands up, you don't know. So that's the problem. The classic is, it works on my computer. Don't ever say that. Command not found. It's maddening. Don't throw computers over that. What version do you have? What version do I need? And every issue template ever on GitHub, please mention other relevant information, such as operating system, Node.js, Yarn, and NPM versions. How many of you seen that? Everyone put your hands up. All right, let's further illustrate the problem. The worst quiz ever. When was async await added to Node? You probably know this one. When did Ruby add the safe navigation operator? When did Bash add globstar? When did npm install start updating the package lock JSON? And when was overflow changed, removed from Chrome? Now, I know the answers to all of these because they were all particularly painful for me. But chances are you probably don't know all of these. And so really, you think, oh, well, semantic versioning helps us with this. We know exactly when all these things were added. But the problem is semantic versioning, well, not everyone uses it right. And every time you go backwards in a version, doesn't matter whether it was a hotfix or a minor version, it's breaking every time you go backwards. All right. More problems. How do I find this? Do you know what this is? Well, it's the Android SDK versions, and there's a lot of them. They're always in a strange order. They're hard to read. I don't even remember where to find this, and I wrote a library that gets it for you. So, all right, so this is the part of the infomercial where we smash cabbages into blenders. There's got to be a better way, right? I've watched developers struggle with this for years. And so we clearly have a problem, and there really isn't just one solution to it. It's not really a one-size-fits-all. Really, it's a series of steps. You have to know what you have and enforce what you need. The goal is to find a solution that is the easiest and least intrusive for your workflow and gets you the environment safety that you need. So the first one is knowing what you have. Easily find the fingerprint of everything that makes up your development environment. So your operating system version, the path of your node binary. And this is what we use NVINFO for. And the next one is enforce what you use. Enforcing and correcting mismatched versions for environments on a per project basis. So this is what we use Solidarity for. So I'm going to introduce to you NVINFO, which is a little weird because I can probably guarantee that every single one of you have it on your computer already, and you don't know it. So imagine getting 5 new developers together and starting a React Native project in 2017. All of you have different setups. And so all of you kind of just do Command-V until someone flips a table. Literally, it happened on video. So now, I actually wrote a shell script at the time that combined getting your operating system, Xcode, Node, NPM versions all in one thing. And the developers could curl it and pipe it out and send it through a diff to see what was different between computers. And so this was cool, but it didn't really help out the rest of the community because I knew they were having this problem too. So I made a PR to React Native, and you can read all about the rest of this story on my blog, trevorbrindle.com. Trust me, it's kind of interesting. So this is NVINFO. It's actually a little anticlimactic when you look at it, but it's really useful, I promise. And it turns out no one's really done this before, which is baffling because, well, I mean, it's a really boring idea. The library doesn't do anything interesting, but it does call, just in this picture, 17 different system binaries to get this information. You're not going to type out Command-V 17 times, I promise you. So there are a lot of different ways to use NVINFO, and my favorite is via npx, another binary that you may not know about that I guarantee is on your computer. It's a way to run any node module without actually directly installing it first. NVINFO is great at this because it's a super small package and it's very fast, maybe 1 or 2 seconds. Of course, you can also install it globally or in your project, as you would with anything else. You can also, with the binaries that I compile, lookma, node dependency, you can download it directly and just execute it like any other binary. With a sister project that I wrote in Shell, you can actually curl through this convenient little domain that I have directly into your bash if you're brave. And you can also add it directly to your project as a development dependency to use any of the helpers in particular that you want from NVINFO, because it exports all of them. So you can import your helpers and get your OS info or your Docker info and just console log it out. And you might say, so what? Well, all of these projects actually use NVINFO today, whether you know it or not. Some of them are white labeled in their command line tools. Some of them are part of their issue template using some presets. So you call npx NVINFO with a preset of, say, jest, or styled components, and it'll get you all the information that the maintainers of that project have prescribed as necessary for debugging. So where do we go from here? I laughably only have 260 stars on GitHub, considering this project's been out for about 2 years. It's really just that no one knows about it, even though they're already using it. Very few people use it directly, whether they know it or not. Yet it has 3 million downloads a month. So feel free to contribute. I especially need people who like Windows. I don't know why you would. So the next tool I'm going to talk about is Solidarity. So this is actually an infinite red product. And it's really when you need a little bit more control than just a info output. On a per project basis, you can enforce a certain environment and stop the constant comparing of NVINFO outputs. Interestingly, Solidarity was actually written at more or less the same time as NVINFO and now currently uses NVINFO under the hood. It was actually a brainchild of Gant Laborde, and he asked me to pronounce his name Das Krubenhaken for whatever reason. Couldn't tell you. But it's basically the same idea, just enforcement. It's really great because it's cross-platform, actually works on Windows, and not invasive at all. Unlike a VM or a container, it really doesn't have any type of overhead. And it's very much time-saving. You can check files, variables, anything you can type into Shell, or even any type of custom plugin. You can create Solidarity plugins and check for anything you want. So getting started with Solidarity is super easy. You npm install it either globally or in your project. Create a .solidarity file, and run Solidarity. And all you have to do in your configuration file is add requirements. So say yarn, you tell it it's a CLI rule, you tell it which binary to call, and what semantic version number you're looking for. The best part about it is you can also configure the error message. So when inevitably one of your developers does not have the right version, you can actually tell it, you have this version, you really should have this version, here's a script to fix it. So Solidarity in Inaction. Here's a screenshot of terminal running Solidarity, just checking for node npm and yarn, and it tells you, hey, you have 160, you should have 151, stop upgrading things. And so here's a script to fix it. So you copy and paste that in, and you run it again, and you're good. So let's say you're the lead on the team, and you actually know what you're doing. And yes, I do, in fact, want to upgrade this. So you can call Solidarity snapshot and upgrade your Solidarity file automatically. So some neat tricks you can do with Solidarity. You can use UnterminatedScape codes, which if you're not a total dork like me, you may not know that you can actually color and create backgrounds on your terminal output. So if you don't terminate those, it'll just leave your background color bright red, which developers will notice. You can use it in NPM Prehook. So if you want to check your environment before you actually build, it'll automatically run it for them whether they know it's not or not. And inevitably, when they have the wrong versions, you can inject the versions into the error output, the wanted version and the actual version. You can update your snapshots on your CI build. So say you run in a Docker container on your CI, You can actually update those snapshots every time your Docker image updates automatically. So when you merge that into master, someone forks off of master, they pull down, they run build, and then immediately there's something wrong. They always have the same environment in production and your release as they will developing your product. And you can also do neat things like checking to make sure people actually commit with the right email. Don't use your last company's email. All right, so here's an example of a whole bunch of things that Solidarity can do. Here's the error output with the script automatically injected, and then, hey, look, Solidarity checks failed, and project requirements not met. Proceed at your own risk. So this is actually not going to stop you from building, but it will make it noticeable. So next, I know as you're all thinking, why don't you just use a container or a VM? Well, you may be saying that just because you haven't tried doing that before. It's kind of a pain. It's our stack in particular, React Native, is already very resource intensive. Really try not to add the overhead if you don't have to. Always try something lighter weight first and less intrusive. So that's Solidarity and NVINFO. You're never going to lock down your environment perfectly, but using your tools, you'll at least wake up from some of these nightmares. I'm Trevor Brindle. Feel free to star N VINFO. Follow me on Twitter, and I will post those pictures later. Thanks, everyone.